What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the NFL Week 11 previews. I'm Dom, as always. I'm joined by one half of the Price Brothers. Only Dan tonight. Anthony didn't finish his paper. He's got to do other things. But you know what? That's all right. Me and Dan, we're going to break down NFL Week 11. We're going to talk about the primetime games and a few other games that pique our interest. So let's get started. We got a really big matchup on Thursday Night Football. The first place Cardinals are going to take on the Seahawks, who are also tied for first place right now. They both sit at 6-3. Very big game. It's still, I would say, pretty early in the season, but we're getting to the later part of the season. So, Dan, what do we got on this game to start off?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a huge game. This could honestly be the decider of the decision or of the division. Sorry. It, two high-powered offenses. Seattle, however, has not looked good as of late. And the Cardinals, even though they beat the Bills last week, it took a miracle play from DeAndre Hopkins. So their defense needs to kind of fix things up too. I mean, these two teams played a great game the last time they played. I think it was Monday Night Football, right? They
Sunday night game,
played
I think it
a
was.
Sunday night. So they played another primetime game. It was super exciting overtime. And this one, it should be another great one. Hopefully, if you're a Seahawks fan, Russell Wilson starts to play a little bit like he was at the beginning of the season. Past couple games, kind of has a turnover bug, so he needs to play better. Kyler Murray, he's been playing out of his mind as of recent, and I think this should be a really fun game to watch, just like the last one.
Agreed. These two really good teams. Their offenses been playing very well. The Seahawks, they're a little shaky last time out against the Rams, but hopefully they iron out their problems. Russell Wilson looks like the MVP that we've known him as at the beginning part of the season and for most of his career. If the Seahawks bounce back, they really need that. This game is in Seattle, so that helps them a little bit. Thursday night in Seattle, that definitely favors them, especially because the Cardinals, they usually play in a dome, and it's usually a little bit warmer in Arizona this time of the year. So I would say officially I think the Cardinals are going to win this game just because of Dan, we're soccer guys. You would say the Cardinals are the team in form and the Seahawks are the team out of form right now. You know, pretty rough performances against the Bills and the Rams for the Seahawks, and the Cardinals, they've looked impressive. They looked pretty good against the Bills. Like you said, it did take that DeAndre Hopkins miracle at the end of the game to win it, but that was a good game to watch and they looked good in it. So I think I don't know. I don't really trust Seattle's defense anymore. It's not like that defense we knew and loved when they had Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, the Legion of Boom. That was such a great defense. It's not that defense anymore, and it's definitely shown that a lot throughout the year. So for that reason alone, I imagine Kyler Murray is probably going to have another great game throwing the ball and running the ball, I would say. DeAndre Hopkins, he'll probably explode yet again like he has been doing for the entire season so far. So that's my reasoning behind picking the Seahawks or I'm sorry, picking the
Yep,
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
The line for this game is Seahawks -3. Obviously, I'm not going to take that. Dan, what are your thoughts on that line?
It's a tough one. I think I'm not going to take it as well. I think the Cardinals will win this game. Like you said, they're a bit more in form. Tyler Lockett, I believe, is also questionable for this game, as Chris Carson. So, it's going to take a big game from DK Metcalf, who got locked up by Jalen Ramsey last week. He's obviously a very talented player, but he's still very young. I don't think we should hold him to this like Julio Jones standard. And on the other side of the ball, DeAndre Hopkins, I just think it'll be too much. I think it'll be a close game like it was in the last outing, but I don't think that the home field advantage will be enough for Seattle on this one.
Very good. Over under is 57.5. I think I'm going to take it. Offenses, I imagine, is probably going to be a nice high scoring game. Probably a close one, too. So maybe a shootout. That'd be nice to watch. What are your thoughts on that over under?
Yeah, I'll probably take it as well.
All right, so this should be a fun one to watch. Thursday Night Football. Keep an eye out for it. Could end up deciding the division depending on how the rest of it goes. So just hope for a good one. We'll move on to the Sunday games. We're going to make some quick predictions on some other games, and then we're going to go in depth on a few other games. So we'll start out the Eagles. They travel to Cleveland. They're going to play the Browns. Browns favored by 3.5. What do you think of that game, Dan?
It's tough. I mean, both these teams don't look great. I know the Browns have a 6-3 record, but they can beat bad teams but not good teams. I don't really know what kind of team the Eagles are, if I'm being honest. It really depends on how well Carson Wentz plays and if they're able to stop the run. But I think I'm gonna go with the Eagles in this one. I think they bounce back.
I agree. I think the Eagles can bounce back in this one. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Browns win. They should win this game, but I got a weird feeling about the Eagles possibly winning this one. So we'll move on. Next game, the Falcons, they play the Saints. Saints will be without Drew Brees. It's still unclear if they're going to start Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. It looks like it's going to be Jameis Winston, though. Quick thoughts on this one, Dan.
I think that the Saints should be a little bit worried. I don't know if it'll be because of Jameis Winston, but the Falcons are it's a division rival. They could be like a spoiler team. Obviously they're 3-6, but we know the offense can put up points. And I do think that the Saints will probably be victorious in this matchup, but definitely wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons won this one.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think the Falcons, they could pull the upset, but smart money says go with the Saints. Even without Breeze, they still got Michael Thomas. They still got Alvin Kamara. It's still a really good offense. Their defense has been stepping up a little bit in the past couple of weeks. So I think smart money says take the Saints in this game. But again, anything could happen, especially with the Falcons, the way they've been playing this year. Next game, two of the lower tier teams in the NFL right now, but two teams that have bright futures. The Cincinnati Bengals, they travel to Landover. They're going to play the Washington football team. What do you got on this one?
I think this might be a fun one to watch. The Washington running backs have been playing really well as late, Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. But I think that Joe Burrow is going to have a bounce back game. I think, the receivers, Higgins and Boyd, will probably put up some big numbers. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati in this one.
I am too. I think Cincinnati. I'm not going to say they win this game with ease. I think this should be a fun one to watch. Close one. I'd probably say like Cincinnati by 6 or 7, somewhere in that range. But Joe Burrow gets the job done, and they get another win to boost his confidence. Next game, the Lions. They're going to travel to Charlotte. They're going to play the Panthers. What do we got on this one?
So I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The Lions.
Is
They're going to travel to North Carolina, and they're going to play the Panthers.
oh, this one could be an interesting one as well. Two offenses that can score points from time to time. I'm not quite sure on Teddy Bridgewater's health in this one. I don't know if he's been confirmed to play or not, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the Lions in this one. Panthers still without Christian McCaffrey, so I think that the Lions, DeAndre Swift's been playing very well as late, and so is Marvin Jones. Kenny Galladay might play, which could be huge for them. So I think they'll come out with this one.
Yep, we're on the same page tonight, Dan. I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. I think with or without Bridgewater, the Panthers probably won't be able to do enough to win this game, especially, again, they're going to be without McCaffrey for another week. So I think the Lions win this game. Matthew Stafford's been having a pretty decent season. And DeAndre Swift, he's also been doing well. And then those wide receivers for the Lions, I like them a lot. So I think they do enough. They win this game. They improve to 5-5 as they look to stay in the NFC wildcard race. So we'll keep an eye out for that situation as well. Next game, the undefeated Steelers, they're going to travel to Jacksonville. They're going to play the 1-8 Jaguars. Thoughts on this one?
I think Pittsburgh probably steamrolls them. I will say the Jaguars did put up a pretty good game against the Packers, even though they didn't play their best, I would say. But yeah, I don't see an upset in this one. Jaguars are tanking. It's very evident to me, and the Steelers are, one of the top teams of football right now.
Yep. Steelers, they heard everyone after that Dallas game. They said this is the most overrated team in NFL history. They got the easiest schedule of all time. And then they go out there and they absolutely hammer the Bengals, who a lot of people are high on right now. So I think they do the exact same thing to the Jaguars. They go out there, they make it a statement game. They win the game. I'm not going to say they win it by like 40 or 50. They probably win the game by at least 17, maybe probably 20. But they win this game comfortably and they improve to 10-0. Next game we'll look at the Patriots. They're going to travel to Houston where they won Super Bowl 51, and they're going to play the Texans. What do we got on this?
This one's an interesting one, but I think that the Texans are gonna come out with this one. Deshaun Watson, last week's game in Cleveland, I don't really want to look at that and judge Deshaun Watson. The weather was terrible. The winds, it was like 15-mile-an-hour winds, something like that. There wasn't much throwing in the ball. But back in Houston, they've looked, okay ever since Bill O'Brien has been gone. And I know the Patriots just beat the Ravens. However, I think it was a bit of a fluke. I think the weather helped them out a lot, and just a poor performance by Lamar Jackson. I don't think we'll see that from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, we must have copied the same notes before we started, Dan. I got to take the Texans on this one too. I just don't see enough from the Patriots offense. That people say it was a good game from Cam on Sunday night against the Ravens. I didn't really see that
Was it?
game. I didn't really see that game, so I would gonna have to go to the Texans here. I think they're just overall a better team. I would say probably. I like their offense a lot more than I like the Patriots' offense, and their defense. I mean, they still have J.J. Watt, so you got to say their defense is somewhat good. So we'll both take the Texans in that one. Next game, the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. They look to continue their nice hot streak as they travel to the Mile High in Denver and play the Broncos. What do you got on this one, Dan?
I think the Dolphins continue to roll in this one. Their defenses look spectacular over the past few weeks, and Tua has been steadily improving. He hasn't had like this amazing like 4 touchdown, 350-yard game yet, but he's looked well, or he's played well so far. Salvan Ahmed played a pretty good game in the absence of Miles Gaskin, who I think is going to be back for Week 12. He'll be eligible to be back, and I think he should be back. So that would be big for them. But Drew Lock last week threw 4 interceptions. Just the whole team didn't look very good. I don't think they have enough to beat a red hot Dolphins team.
Yep, perfectly said. The defense for the Dolphins has been playing tremendously well. Drew Lock, he had good performances. We saw him back to back weeks, and then he did absolutely terrible against the Raiders. So I think a hot defense against a struggling quarterback. I'm going to take the defense, obviously. And like you said, Tua, he hasn't been putting up sparkling numbers, but he hasn't been putting up terrible numbers either. So I expect the Dolphins to win this game. Probably, I'd say maybe by a touchdown or two. Next game, just for kicks, the Jets, who are still without a win, they're going to travel to Inglewood as they play the Los Angeles Chargers. Quick thoughts on this one?
I think that the Chargers definitely get a win here. It could be possible. I mean, obviously the Chargers aren't too good of a team, but I think Justin Herbert, he should put up enough points against this Jets team. And I mean, I said it before, if you've seen our podcast, I really thought that if the Jets were going to get one win this season, it would have been that Monday night game against the Patriots. They lost by 3 on a game-ending field goal, but I really don't see where they're going to get a win. And even though the Chargers aren't great, they're better than the Jets.
Yeah, agreed. The Chargers, they've been in a lot of close games so far this year. I think that game against the Dolphins they just had was like the first game where they went down by more than I believe 10 points it was, or 11 points. So they've been pretty competitive. The wins obviously haven't been going their way. They sit at 2-7, but they should win this game. They're favored by 8.5. I would take that line, honestly. I think they win this game pretty comfortably. And I agree with you. I think the only chance that Jets had of winning a game was against the Patriots on that Monday night game a few weeks back. And next game, the Cowboys, they travel to Indianapolis. They're going to play the Vikings. I got a feeling I know what you're going to say here, Dan, but go ahead and give us the thoughts anyway.
Yep, I'm definitely going to go with the Vikings here. They've looked really, or I don't know if they look really good, but they're just adequate enough. I feel like with Dalvin Cook back, the running game is strong. And then without Dak Prescott, the Cowboys offense can't move the ball and their defense is still pretty terrible. And I think that the Vikings will continue to roll and they'll improve to 5-5 and kind of stay in that wild card race and possibly make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier about teams in form, and the Vikings are definitely a team in form right now. I'm gonna pray for you if you're going up against Dalvin Cook or Adam Thielen or any of those, or Justin Jefferson. If you're going up against any of those guys in fantasy this weekend, because I imagine they're going to put up some monster numbers, especially Dalvin Cook. He didn't have any touchdowns in our last game, but I imagine he might get 3 or 4 this game against this terrible Cowboys defense, in my opinion. So the Vikings, they win this game very comfortably. They improved to 5-5, and Dan said on a couple podcasts ago when they sat at 1-5, it was very possible the Vikings still sneak into the playoffs. And they win this game, improve to 5-5. It looks more and more like a possibility every single day. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that situation. All right, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some other games that happen on Sunday. The first being the 6-3 Titans. They're going to travel to Baltimore and they're going to play the 6-3 Ravens. This is a pretty big game, not only for the Titans, who are still in a pretty close divisional battle with the Colts, but for the Ravens, who also need this battle just because it looks like the Steelers, they could finish undefeated. It's not a possibility, or it's not entirely out of the picture that the Ravens do win the division, but they got to win this game to stay in the wild card race with a lot of teams sitting at 6-3 right now. So Dan, why don't you go ahead on this game?
Yeah, you said it's a pretty big game there, but I think 9 teams in the AFC that sit at 6-3, which is insane. It's a very, even with the expanded playoff this year, it's still a very tight race for this AFC wildcard. And these are 2 teams who are a bit out of form. The Titans have lost 3 out of the last 4, I believe. And then, of course, the Ravens just lost to the Patriots. So both teams need to try to regain form. I mean, they played very well last year, and it's going to be really important for these teams to win because say the Ravens lose this game and the Browns beat the Eagles, which is possible, even though we said we didn't think so. It's very possible. And the Browns are 7-3 and the Ravens are 6-4. Like, who would have thought that the Browns would be ahead of the Ravens in the division? But this is a huge game for both of these teams.
Definitely a big game for both teams. Uh, I want to say I like the Ravens in this one. I feel like every time we see them on prime time, they always look like a terrible team. That wasn't the real Ravens team we saw against the Patriots. I think they bounced back nicely in this one. I think it is a close game. It's a fun one to watch, definitely. I think Derrick Henry has potential to have a nice game. Ryan Tannehill, I'm not exactly sure how he's going to do, but the whole Titans team, they kind of look to bounce back after a rough performance against the Colts on Thursday Night Football last weekend. They had a few extra days of rest to maybe get their stuff together. So it'll be exciting to see how they come out and respond to that game. And for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he didn't look all that impressive against the Patriots. He hasn't looked all that impressive this year, I would say. He's had his moments, but he's going to look to continue to bounce back and maybe return to his MVP form. I still think that the Ravens should do a little bit with quarterback runs, get him involved in the run game a little bit more because that was a big part of the success last year. And we all know he's very capable of doing it. So I think seeing more of that from the Ravens would help out their offense tremendously. And their defense has been playing great so far. So there's not a whole lot you have to fix there. It's really the offense where, they got a lot of points last year and a lot of yards. I think they led the league in both those stats last year. So getting that form that they had last year back is going to be a very big part and keeping pace in this tightly contested wild card spot and the way the NFC or the AFC North could shape up so far. So I think I'm going to take the Ravens. Should be a close one. I take them. The line's 6.5. I wouldn't take that. I think it'll probably be a field goal for 4-point game, something like that. I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think I'm gonna take the Ravens simply because, like you said, it's a 1 o'clock game. In the three losses that they have this year, it was primetime game to the Chiefs, primetime game to the Patriots, and then I'm pretty sure the game against the Steelers was like the America's game of the week, like that 4 o'clock
Yeah.
game. So yeah, I mean, if it's a bit worrying if you're a Ravens fan because you're like, oh, can Lamar play in these games? He's 0-2 in the playoffs. And just the fact that this is a 1 o'clock game, I think these are two pretty evenly matched teams, but I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Well said. Next game we'll move on to 425. The Green Bay Packers sitting at 7-2. They're going to travel to Indianapolis and they're going to play the 6-3 Colts. Big game here, of course. The Packers 7-2. Currently, they hold the tiebreaker against the Saints. They sit at the top of the NFC right now. They hold the number 1 seed. And the Colts right now, of course, another team. They sit at 6-3 in the AFC. They hold the tiebreaker against the Titans. They sit at the top of the AFC South right now. Dan, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, it's another big game too. More so for the Colts, I would say. Obviously, if you're the Packers, you want to be that number 1 seed in the NFC, but they probably have their division locked up at this point. But for the Colts, it's still tight in that, they're one of those 9-6-3 teams in the AFC. They've impressed with some performances, especially last week. And I think that this should be a good one. I think that for the Packers, this would also be a big one, obviously, to put them ahead even further in the NFC, but just a big win against a good team. It will show the rest of the league, like, okay, there's a reason we're number 1 in the NFC.
Yeah, I got to take the Packers in this one. I think their offense is probably going to be too much for that Colts defense. I like the Colts defense. I think it's really good, one of the best in the NFL. I don't know how well they'll be able to contain Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and they got a pretty good run game with Aaron Jones. So I think the Packers win this game, and it's mostly because the Colts offense. I don't trust them enough. They're pretty inconsistent. They put up a lot of points against certain teams, and then they go up against other teams, and they drop like a goose egg, I would say. But I would take the Packers to win this game. It should be another fun one to watch. I don't expect a blowout in this one either. I would probably take the Packers by maybe like 5 or 7 points, something like that. Close game. Indianapolis is favored in this one, so it would be an upset technically. But Dan, who do you got taking this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Packers as well. I think it should be a close game. But even if they're able to, kind of slow down Rodgers and Adams, I think we could see a big game from Aaron Jones in this one. He hasn't really popped off since about week 2 or 3. He's dealt with some injuries and has played solid, but I think we might see like an Aaron Jones supernova this game.
Agreed. Good take. Uh, the last game of the Sunday window, the Sunday night game, the 8-1 Chiefs, they travel to Las Vegas. They're going to play the 6-3 Raiders. Chiefs, their lone loss of the year came against the Raiders. I believe it was week 5 that game was. The Raiders, they looked very impressive in that game. Raiders, they sit at 6-3, so they're in the wild card spot right now. If they win this game, it puts them right back in the talks to win the division. The AFC West, it would put them at 7-3, and the Chiefs at 8-2. So this is a big game not only for that division, but potentially a wild card chase too. So Dan, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, you said it pretty well right there. This is huge playoff implications because if the Raiders win this game, then they're right back. Then there's talks that, hey, maybe they're not a wild card team. Maybe they can win the division. And then for the Chiefs, if they put themselves ahead to 9-1, then they pretty much lock the division up at that point. And for the Raiders, they're also one of those 9-6-3 teams. I think they're one of the better teams out of that group. But prime time, I think it's in Kansas City, right?
It's in Las
Or
Vegas.
oh, it is in Las Vegas. Hmm, that's interesting. But prime time, I think I'm gonna have to take the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes gonna have another great game. A lot of people talked about Kyler Murray this past weekend, play MVP front runner, but Patrick Mahomes didn't play. I think he is gonna have a really good game. It should be close. I feel like maybe Kansas City pulls away a bit towards the end.
And after 12 games of discussion, we finally have our first disagreement. I'm going
Mm.
to have to take the Raiders in this one solely because if my dad watches this, he's going to be very upset that I didn't pick Gruden. So I have to take the Raiders in this one. I think Josh Jacobs should have a nice game. He had a very nice game last week against the Broncos. I hope for more just because I have him on fantasy. I think he should have a good game. Chiefs, they haven't had the greatest success stuff in their run, but they have been pretty decent. So I think that should be a big point of their offense to hand the ball to Josh Jacobs to see what he could do. You said it, Dan. Patrick Mahomes, he's such a great quarterback. That offense Kansas City has, it's amazing. I could go on and on about all their good players and their speed, their everything they've got. Their ability to catch the ball, run the ball, everything they've got is just so amazing. But I have to take the Raiders at home, uh, solely because John Gruden and my dad's love for him. So
I
there's
can
no line
respect
for
it.
this game, but I would imagine the Chiefs would be favored probably by maybe we'll say 4. I obviously wouldn't take it. Dan, what do you thought? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take it. I think it's gonna, like I said, it'll probably be close, but I think towards the end of the game, the Chiefs will kind of run away with it.
And the last game of Week 11, the Monday Night Football matchup. I'm being a dead horse here, but this is another very big playoff implication game. The 6-3 Rams, they travel to Tampa Bay. They're going to take on the Buccaneers, who sit at 7-3 right now. Big game for both teams. Obviously, the Rams, if they win this game, they get to jump ahead. Jump ahead of whoever loses that Thursday night game between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. And for the Buccaneers, they're trying to keep pace with the Saints at the top of the NFC South. And also, both these teams could be in play for potential wild card game depending on how the divisions go. So, thoughts on this Monday night game, Dan?
Yeah, you said it pretty well right there. This is huge in the NFC. Finally, talking more about the NFC wild card because it's a bit less competitive right now. But these two teams need this win. It's a big primetime game. This Rams defense has looked fantastic. Uh, just pretty much the whole season. Obviously, led by Aaron Donald, the best defense player in the game, and then the Buccaneers, who dropped 46 last week. So this could be a really interesting game, a really good offense versus a really good defense. And I think that what it'll come down to is how well Jared Goff can play. Because if he plays adequately enough, like we saw how the Bears beat the Buccaneers, right? Khalil Mack was in Tom Brady's face all night. The offensive line let up a bunch of sacks. There was pressure the whole game. And then Nick Foles just played well enough and they ended up winning the game. So I could see something similar like that happening, but it all depends on Jared Goff for me.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to say there's no possible way, but I think the Rams they win this game. Like you just said, when the Buccaneers played the Bears, Khalil Mack was in Tom Brady's face the entire night. I think Aaron Donald is going to have that exact same success unless they do something different with that defense or offensive line and keep Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones back there the entire game just to block him. I think Aaron Donald could finish this game with maybe 2 or 3 sacks realistically, and the rest of the defense, Jalen Ramsey back there is good. The rest of their D line has been playing pretty well, and their secondary has been playing well too. And like you said, Jared Goff's just got to do just enough to get him over the finish line. He's got the tools on offense to do it. So I think the Rams get the job done. It should be a close one, a fun one to watch. The line is Tampa Bay -4. I wouldn't take that, obviously, if I pick the Rams. I think, honestly, the Rams win this game probably by a last-second field goal, I would say. It'll be close throughout the entire game, and it'll definitely be a fun one to watch. Dan, thoughts on this one?
This one's tough, but I think that I'm going to have to disagree with you. I don't want to, but I think that in the end, I feel like Tom Brady will outplay Jared Goff. I think it could really go either way. This should be a really good game. I'm glad we have a bunch of good primetime games this week. So, stay tuned. But I think that Tampa will probably get the win here because they know they have to keep up with the Saints.
Yep, well said, Dan. We got a lot of important games in NFL Week 11, a lot of playoff implications. A lot of these games could decide wildcard races, divisional battles. So definitely stay tuned. Check out these games. Check out highlights, and we'll be back here talking about them in the NFL Week 11 recap next week. And we'll definitely be talking about them on podcasts and stuff like that, tweeting about it. So follow us on all forms of social media. And Dan, any last words before we head out?
Just, watch these games. Should be a fun one.
Definitely, he said it right. All right, everyone. Ivan, Dom, thank you for joining us for the NFL Week 11 preview. We'll be back here for the recap very soon, and we'll do it again next week, the Week 12 preview. So until then, stay safe and enjoy some football. We'll see you later, everyone. Adios.